Thank you for visiting Past the Wire TV, the YouTube channel of PastTheWire.com.
Dan Oman here with some exciting news. DRF Formulator, the gold standard in past performance information, is now free, exclusively on DRF Bets. Join DRF Bets with the promo code WINNING. Get a $250 first deposit match bonus, a $10 free bet, and free Formulator already uploaded to your account. Access Formulator's premium features, including sortable trainer stats, race replays, personalized trip notes, and lots more. Free Formulator, exclusively on DRF Bets.
Keep people up.
Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Past the Wire TV. I am here with the one and only Papa Mandella, Richard Mandella, arguably, maybe not even arguably, one of the best trainers of all time. Absolutely a pleasure and a privilege to have you on the show, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Nice to be here.
You know, couple of things. There's a zillion things, literally, that I could talk to you about throughout your career, because it's been one of the most remarkable training careers in the history of the game, and I've watched an awful lot of it. So I'm going to pick out a couple of highlights that I like. Of course, we're going to have to talk a little bit about Forbidden Kingdom, because the Kentucky Derby's coming up, and everybody wants to know about that. But before we go there, I want to go back. Dare and Go. Taking down the legendary Cigar. You know, that was just an unbelievable race, an unbelievable accomplishment. Was Siphon in there? I mean, I'm going by memory. I mean, I haven't watched the race in so long, but I remember they went pretty fast early. I think they went 22:45 with Siphon on the lead. And Siphon was probably the better regarded horse at that time going into that race anyway. I don't know if you felt that way, but I think the public pretty much felt that way. Was Siphon in there to set it up for Dare and Go? Did you kind of double team him a little bit there? Can you tell me a little bit about your strategy going into that major upset?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Siphon was a very good horse on his own. He had just won the $1 million Hollywood Gold Cup and beat a horse named Jerry that
Bill Mott also, right.
Bill Mott. And Bill and I are friends. We talked later. He said, my only concern in the Pacific Classic was letting Siphon get away. And at the draw of the Pacific Classic, they asked me, what are you going to do with your two speed horses? Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm going to take Dare and Go back because nobody should go with Siphon. And that's pretty much how it happened.
Interesting. Yeah. You know, there was one thing I noticed that nobody ever talked about that day, and nothing to take away from Dare and Go, but I noticed that day going into the gate, it was the only time I had ever saw Cigar balk a little at the gate. I mean, they walked him up to the gate and he kind of like did that little like step back, and they kind of gave him a turn and, you know, urged him in. And every other time during that streak he was on, he kind of like marched right in. And I remember never thinking that Dare and Go was going to be the one that did it. I thought that if he did lose, it was going to be Siphon that wired him. But I said, you know, he may not be on his game. He may not, you know, today may be the day they take him down. And sure enough, it did work out that way. Great upset. That really was one for the ages, and I gotta hand it to you. That was well played, and I don't think anybody expected it to be Dare and Go. Did you?
Well, Dare and Go was a very good horse. He just wasn't the same every time you ran him. Mm-hmm. You know, you talk about consistency and things. Right. He was not that. He was too smart.
Gotcha.
He knew more about what was going on in the shed row than I did, and he'd outthink himself sometimes.
Interesting. Interesting.
But he was doing unbelievable into that race.
Right.
And as I said, I instructed Alex, take him back and make one run and see if that works. So
really, and it did. That's a gutsy thing. Is it hard to, going into a big race like that? Okay, not an allowance, a non-winner or one, non-winner or two, or a maiden, where maybe you can kind of really teach a horse or experiment. But going into a grade one or a race like the Pacific Classic, it's I mean, obviously it's gutsy, but what does it take to kind of change up a horse's style at that point to try something? I mean, that's not something a lot of guys would do, is, take a horse out of his game or try something new in a race like that.
No, we'd worked him that way though, and we had a feeling it might be better.
Really interesting. The other thing I want to ask you about, and maybe you'll tell me I'm dead wrong, but I did ask Gary Stevens about it, and he kind of alluded to it. Okay, I always thought the year that the Holder beat Songbird in the Classic, in the Distaff rather, that you had set your mind up to say, I'm going to win the Distaff with Beholder this year, and I'm just going to get her there. And I kind of felt that all the races leading her up to that race were just designed to get her to peak on that day, which ultimately she did, and win probably one of the best distaffs we've ever seen. Is that an accurate assessment? Was that your plan from the beginning, to kind of stepping stone your way up to that race, or not?
Yeah, I should say yes and look like I know something.
Don't lie. Tell us. I mean, if you want.
But the fact is, over the summer into the fall, she was in season a lot.
Okay.
And it happened just on the time of the races.
Right.
So when she got beat at Del Mar in those two races, she was in heat terrible both days.
Really interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then she just kind of turned back around. And I remember about 2 weeks before the Breeders' Cup, somebody asked me about her, and I said, she's back.
Okay. And she was. I got to ask.
She went through a time in her life that she wanted to be a broodmare, and that's what it was coming to.
Right. Yeah, and that unbelievable race that was. And, there's still that quote saying everybody Songbird won, and people joke about that photo being so close. I loved Beholder that day, and I loved to bet, made one of the biggest bets of my wagering career on Beholder. I knew she got up when I watched it. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I never had any question.
Me neither.
No, seriously, I didn't. Yeah.
No, neither did I. I mean, I sweated it out those last couple of yards.
I was actually surprised it was as close as it was in the photo.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was close, but I kind of thought that she got up, and I thought that was just a great job. Never knowing that she was in heat for those other races, but that I thought she was brought to that race as expertly as I had ever seen any horse pointed to a race. Which brings me to the next topic I want to touch base on. You've won everything, okay, except for, we know, the Kentucky Derby. A couple of years ago, I think you might have thought you had probably one of your better, or if not best, chances with Omaha Beach. Didn't work out. Tough pill to swallow, I'm sure. What was that like, losing a horse that you really thought had such a good shot so close to the race? And now, we'll follow up with, couple of years later, you're back again with what a lot of people seem to think is maybe just as good or a better shot. So talk us through that and what the Derby actually means for you, having won so many other huge races all over the world.
Let me sort that out. It went on for quite a while.
I ramble. I'm terrible at that.
That Derby means a lot to me, just as it does anybody in the horse business or even fans. but Omaha Beach's problem, Mel Studi summed it up best when he said when he got beat in the Kentucky Derby after the race, and the interviewer asked him, "Geez, Mel, aren't you upset?" And he said, "I've got a lot of experience losing races." So don't worry about it. Right. And that sums it up pretty good. We as horse trainers, you learn to live with disappointments. Saying that, we've got a little setback with Forbidden Kingdom. Yesterday, after he trained, had a little temperature.
Okay.
Good news is his blood work's perfect. And this morning he doesn't have a temperature, and he ate his dinner last night. But some little bug's biting him. I'm gonna have to give him a few easy days and put one work off. I think I've got time to still work out the Santa Anita Derby and go on. But if it doesn't work out, we'll have another plan.
Right, right. That's got to be frustrating though when you come so close to a race like that, and you know these horses are so, I don't want to use the word fragile, but just so vulnerable to all different types of setbacks. I mean, it's got to be frustrating.
You said the right word, fragile.
Yeah.
When it comes to temperatures and sickness, when you've got horses at the racetrack, you be very careful because they can get real sick fast.
Really?
Yeah. So you have to be very careful. But all signs so far looks like it's, he's maybe got a little touch of a virus, but we're hoping it passes quick.
Right. And I mean, I know your career well enough to know that if he's in the gate on the first Saturday in May, that you don't think it's anything that is going to take away from his performance at all.
Well, if I did, I won't have him there.
Right, exactly. That's kind of what I thought. What kind of horse is for Forbidden Kingdom? I mean, he's beat some small fields. He's got a lot of speed. Tell me a little bit about him. What you're seeing from him and how you rank him as a legit Derby threat.
Well, it gained a lot of ground after the last race.
Okay.
You couldn't look much better than that. Set that kind of pace and then still keep running and look like you're having fun doing it. So that gives us a lot of encouragement. We will continue to try and settle that speed down, but I'm not going to make a drastic change overnight.
Right.
Doing good the way he is. But personally, as a personal thing with him, he's a pleasure to be around. A very smart horse, kind nature.
Oh, we lost Mr. Mandella. Okay, we got Mr. Mandella back. I think you were just telling me a little bit about Forbidden Kingdom and how nice he was and how smart and nice a horse he was to be around.
Yeah, he's good-natured, very smart. Just a pleasure to be around.
Now, is it, in your opinion, more advantageous nowadays to have a speed horse like that going into the Derby, or would you rather have a horse that comes from behind or sits a trip? With speed, I'm a speed lover because I think you kind of make your own trip, and if you can relax a little bit or rate that speed a little bit, I think you kind of have a tactical advantage nowadays, even in the Derby at 1.25 miles. What are your thoughts on that? If you could have your choice, what kind of horse you want going in?
I'd have to ask Baffert. He knows something about the Derby.
That's true, but we don't know this yet, but you may not have to beat him this year.
Oh, I don't want to think that.
I agree. I think we should all be in there. Which brings me to this. There's so much talk about the racing in California nowadays and racing all across the country. And you've got guys like Flavien Prat, leaving for New York, which I think has to be a surprise move when he's so dominant on the circuit there. Umberto Rispoli, another very talented, successful jockey over there, leaving to go to New York. How concerned are you, a stalwart in California, about the state of California racing? Concerned, or you think it'll kind of right its own ship?
No, we're all very concerned.
Really?
The animal rights people just won't get off our back, even though we've improved our injury rate tremendously.
And it gets no recognition. It's so frustrating.
It gets no recognition. The media, won't acknowledge it. The politicians won't. It's almost like there's a wish to get rid of racing.
Yeah.
With the rights people, it's a definite wish. And I guess they're going to quit keeping their dogs and cats in captivity and afraid they might get hurt anyway. So I guess we all just sit in the house on the couch and don't do anything.
Yeah, no, it's very frustrating to watch. I mean, I'm a lover of horse racing my entire life, and I have concerns about some aspects of the sport and some people that don't do the right thing. But it seems that the ones that do, we just get completely overshadowed by the negative publicity and by, like you said, the animal rights groups that refuse to see any positive side of the sport or anybody that takes care of their animals. And how some people treat their horses, and I know how your barn is with your horses. That doesn't even get acknowledged. And as a lifelong fan and lover of the game, it's just so frustrating to me that we just can't get any good publicity from any mainstream media at all. It's got to be negative or nothing.
That's right. And 99% of what goes on at the racetrack is at the highest integrity and class and honesty. There's always some bad apple in every group.
Right.
But people out there imagine if there wasn't racetracks, if there was not a proper racetrack with all of the checks and cross checks that we do to protect horses, if we didn't have that, they would race horses somewhere, but there'd be no rules. There'd be no structure. It'd just be cowboys and Indians.
That's a true statement, Rich. And I'll tell you, it
so careful what you wish for.
Right. Dog fighting is a deplorable thing, but it goes on. You know what I mean? Cockfighting goes on, unregulated, unwatched. And I would hate to see horse racing fall into a category, something like that. And another thing you said that hits home is, we have people in our sport that don't do the right thing, but can you name any business or sport or anything that involves money that doesn't have that? The stock market, we've got bad actors in the stock market. I mean, everything has that, but yet we get singled out as an industry, and that's frustrating to me.
Yes, and it's just very frustrating. You hit the nail on the head. But back to Flavien Prat. Flavien Prat is riding in California where we're only running 3 days a week.
Right.
And as great as he is, it's a real holdback of him to not go where they can run more days a week, more money, more opportunities. And like he said to me, if I'm never going to do it, I need to do it now.
Right. And I see where it makes sense. It's a rare move, but it does make sense. And it does, like he said, put him in a better position for an eclipse.
You're right. And I'm sure that means a lot to him.
Absolutely. Who wouldn't? Now, going back a little bit, last year, he took off a really, really good horse to ride another really good horse that didn't wind up running in the Breeders Cup turf. United. How's United doing? Is he coming back this year as an old man?
He will later in the year.
Okay.
He had a slight injury to a suspensory ligament.
Right.
But no tear, just edema and some bruising, you'd say. But he's a great big 1,250-pound horse. And he's got a little age. He's got a lot of miles on him.
Right.
And so he's going to get a long rest. And hopefully we'll come back and go for 3 or 4 more years.
Yeah, well, you know, we were talking about some great upsets that you pulled off, Dare and Go. You almost pulled off a heck of an upset with him the first time you ran him in the Breeders' Cup. I think he was like 50-1 or something like that, and got beat a nose to Bricks and Mortar, who was, I think, Turf Horse of the Year that year, if not Horse of the Year. For my memory's not what it should be.
It
but
was Horse of the Year, yeah.
Yeah, and you run him to about that much at 50-1.
Yeah.
What else on the radar for Mr. Mandella at this point? I know the Derby. We talked about that. You've won everything else. You're just taking it as it comes and hoping for, you know, those big ones. Or is there a race out there that you secretly, quietly kind of got your eye on, or that you'd like to get back to, or that you want? Maybe the Oaks. I know the Dubai World Cup. You know, I don't know. You tell me.
I'm just hoping not to embarrass myself as I get older.
Nah, I don't think we got to worry. I don't think we got to worry about that. And you've done so much good already. You could get away with a few embarrassments at this stage of the game. Listen, I won't take much of your time. I know you're busy in the morning. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you talking about the Derby horse and letting us know what's up with him. Hopefully, like you said, it's a really minor setback. I would hate to see you you know, have to go through Omaha Beach again, where you've got a major contender, and then you know, you can't run him. I know you're a pro and you'll take it in stride, but as a fan, I'm rooting for you to be in the Derby with a contender. And I believe that if it's not Forbidden Kingdom, there is a Kentucky Derby with your name on it. So go get it. Go get it. Thanks for coming on, Rich. Really appreciate it, man. Have a great day. All right.
All right. Thank you.
And I didn't make you cry. I told you I wouldn't make you cry, and I didn't.
I wiped my tears off behind the camera.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Okay, bye. All right.
Bye.
Nobody does it better.